Rocket League has had standardized maps for its competitive modes for about as long as it's had competitive. Simply put, every map in the competitive playlist share identical layouts down to the boost placements, which does the job nicely and keeps things consistent, but I can't help but feel like there's a real missed opportunity to add some strategic depth to the game. So today I wanted to talk about some of the reasons why the old non-standard maps didn't pan out, and changes I think would make the game a little bit more interesting in the long run. The first of the non-standard maps, Wasteland, was introduced in December of 2015. I think this is important to point out, as by this point the game had been non-standard map free for about 6 months. If you're not familiar with Wasteland, it's basically just Mad Max Fury Road on a Pringle. Although it's the bane of Rumble players today, it was a fairly novel map at the time, and quite liked. It would then be introduced to the ranked playlist at the start of the Legacy Season 2. While a fun map to goof around with on casual, when it came to trying to rank up, the constant dice roll on getting this map every time you played made it more irritating than entertaining. All of a sudden, the months you had spent building muscle memory on standard maps meant nothing at all. Many players found it too disorienting and challenging to play on. And even though it was just as much of a problem for your opponents as yourself, you couldn't help but feel like you could just be playing on a standard map right now. Non-standard maps were introduced to the early RLCS scene as well, but it wouldn't last more than a couple seasons. As time passed on, non-standard maps became an increasingly heated topic with regards to ranked, and after the introduction of Starbase Arc, at the time an Octagon, it wouldn't be long before things reached a head, and in August of 2017, both maps were removed and remade for ranked. We see Rocket League as a digital sport. As such, we think standardization is important and necessary to provide a level playing field and foster consistent competition across all skill levels and events. We introduced non-standard arenas partly to provide variety for pro play, but they have not been embraced. Given the success of RLCS and Rocket League esports in general, we no longer feel that map variety is needed or appropriate for the competitive scene. And that was the end of that. From then on, every ranked and pro game would be played on only standardized maps, in some ways helping establish a more consistent, mature look for spectators of the esport. I feel like a problem with the implementation of these non-standard maps is that they came far too few and far too late in the timeline of the game. By the time they entered the ecosystem over 6 months after launch, the community had gotten used to just playing on the same type of map every game. If you played this game like a day job up to that point, that's 800 hours of experience without any map variation. That's like reaching Plat or Diamond and then changing the map rotation. It wasn't like every game was on these maps either. You would only get them every now and then, meaning that you could never really get accustomed to them, which made them feel more like uncomfortable anomalies rather than actual competitive maps. Now the game debatably has the complete opposite issue when it comes to pro play and the ranked experience. All the maps are identical down to the boost placements, meaning that there is little variance and almost zero strategic depth. Most of the depth the pro scene offers is tied up in the mechanics and playstyles of the players, and the only strategy comes from adjustments made in between games and during timeouts, which has worked fine for the esports so far, but who's to say this lack of variance won't get stale after a while. Other esports benefit massively from having good strategic depth. Even outside of map selection, the tactical decisions that teams and individual players make lead to interesting narratives and captivating moments. That's not to say that Rocket League can't and doesn't have these things, but the inclusion of map variation adds a creative element, with exploitable strengths and weaknesses that add to the overall experience. The different aspects of these maps also give them character and make them more memorable both for viewers and players. While I think Rocket League as an esport is far past the point of no return on this, I think even moving the boosts around would be controversial. It does offer up an interesting theory crafting exercise in what could be. We don't even really have to change the geometry to have some interesting variations. Here's a map that makes the centre a hotly contested area. Here's one that rewards good boost management. Here's one that encourages learning to play off the wall. Here's one that encourages aggressive playstyles. The number of variations you could come up with are endless, and with each one you would have to adjust how you play to accommodate. Overall, it's a shame that non-standard maps never really became a mainstay of competitive. With how Psyonix and the game itself has matured in recent years, the possibility of unique but sensible map variations has been lost. Am I saying that it would have worked regardless? Not necessarily. Maybe this game was fated to standardize. but unless something changes in the future, we'll never know what could have been.